Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex and today I'm going to be doing a review of the incredibly popular Bunny by Mona Awad. This review will contain a spoiler section, but don't worry, I will be giving advance notice before I say any of those details, so you will not have anything spoiled for you that you do not want to be spoiled. And before I get into my review of the book, I have to tell you a little bit of what the story is about. Samantha Mackey is a young woman pursuing her MFA from the prestigious Warren University. She was admitted because her writing is particularly dark and disturbing, and one of the professors thought that she would be a great candidate for the program. Her writing, unfortunately, unnerves her fellow cohorts in her class that she refers to as the Bunnies. The Bunnies are this really tight-knit clique of 4 girls who are really clingy, and they also appear to kind of move and speak as if they had one mind, and Samantha absolutely hates them. Until one night she is invited to join them at their smut salon, where she starts this friendship with them that will send her down a dangerous path, one that includes some experiments and the blurred lines of reality. This is unfortunately one of those books that I'm not going to be able to tell you that much about before I get to the spoiler section, only because the mystery is the entire draw. So here are some things that I can tell you. For starters, the characters are unlikable, with the exception of 2 people, in my opinion, in the entire story, and Samantha is not one of those exceptions. If you are the type of reader who wants to like your main character, you want them to be sympathetic, you want to be able to root for them, I would argue that this book is not that. Bunny, in my opinion, was far more unsettling and tense than it was scary. I never really found myself being afraid while reading the book. It was more that I just had a greater desire to understand what the hell was going on. This is also an oddly sexual book. It's not smut by any means. You don't get any like graphic descriptions of sex, but there is a large focus on the desire for sex, thinking about sex, pining for sex, and it's just a thread throughout the entire novel. And honestly, I felt dirtier reading this than I probably would have if it were actually smut. So just something to consider. And I don't consider myself to be a prude when I read. It was just kind of uncomfortable. Also, just really quick note, apologies in advance because it's cold outside today and my heat pump outside is actually on the other side of the wall from where I film, which is not convenient for me at all, but it's what I have to work with. So please forgive that. I'll try to tune that out in editing as best that I can. I found myself at the halfway point wishing that this had been shorter, which would probably surprise some people because the book is only 305 pages. It's not that big to begin with, but I noticed that Awad, in part of the way that she builds atmosphere, is to be kind of repetitive and talk about the same themes over and over again. And in my opinion, we could have cut out probably about 50 to 100 pages of the story and the message would have been exactly the same. But on a positive note, Mona Awad does know how to create atmosphere, and that was one of the things that was so cool about her writing. And what I noticed from the very beginning of the book is every sentence that she put down, I was able to picture very clearly in my mind. And that is something that I don't think every author is able to capture when they're writing a story. And it's also partially what made the book so intense, is because I felt like I was there. It felt disturbingly real, and I can see where that would appeal to a certain audience of readers. So you might be wondering, who exactly would I recommend this book to? Well, for starters, it would be people who, as I mentioned, don't mind an unlikable main character. You also would have to be okay with hanging by a thread and for the book to be tense for the entire time that you're reading it. I'm not going to say whether the ending is satisfying or not, because I could see where some people would say that it is and some people would say that it isn't, but you definitely do need to be okay with some gore elements. My overall rating for Bunny is going to be 3.5 stars. If you are still interested in reading Bunny, then thank you so much for watching my review. I hope to be able to catch you in the next one because I'm about to head into the spoiler section. So if you're cool with hearing the spoilers, stick around because I have some fun stuff to talk about. And I'm going to start talking about those in 3, 2, 1. And you all know the drill at this point. If you're still here, let's get down to brass tacks as I continuously fight the sun today. The word cult is used in Bunny, and if you know anything about cults or the indoctrination process of getting into one, then you are going to understand things like love bombing or drug use to control members or creating an in-group so that you don't want to leave. You view everybody else as an outsider and you are now an insider. And if you understand those things, then you're going to know pretty much everything you need to going into this book. The one aspect that really frustrated me about this story is how little time it took for Samantha to be brought into the fold and fully indoctrinated into the group. I felt like it really took almost no time at all. It was fast and uncomplicated, and it made me like Samantha's character even less because I honestly viewed her as being stupid, which was part of the problem. Because when you understand anything about cults, and I'm kind of looking at this from the perspective of Ava as a character, when you know what to look for in a cult, you kind of view people who get indoctrinated into one as being unintelligent, and you kind of victim blame them like it's their fault. I found myself doing that because I was looking at Sam's character with disdain and saying, oh, well, she's weak and she's pathetic, and how could she possibly not understand what is going on? And that was partially on me for feeling that way, because anybody who ends up being brought into a cult, who falls for whatever line they are being fed, it's usually because they are being exploited from some weakness or insecurity that they have. So in this case, Sam's weakness is that she's lonely, that she's sad because she only has really one friend, and that's Ava. And she's in this MFA program where she feels like an outsider and she doesn't want to feel that way anymore. So instead of, saying, oh, I'm not going to accept this invitation from the bunnies, she instead was looking at it as, well, if I can get them to like me, if I can understand more about them, if I could even maybe be friends with them, then my last year in my program is going to be a lot easier than it was the year prior. And when you look at it like that, honestly, it does make a lot of sense why she made some of the decisions that she did. It was just really sad that she ended up abandoning Ava in the process, but that's also part of being a cult is, again, everybody else who's not in it is an outsider and you shouldn't be talking to them. But that brings up another issue of the fact that Ava was very easily able to kind of bring Sam out of this haze that she had been in while being around the bunnies, and was able to bring her back to reality pretty quickly. So it felt almost like as quickly as Sam was brought into the fold, she was able to be taken out of it. And I think that that could have been elaborated on more. I think that that could have been done a little bit better. That's part of the reason why this book got a lower rating from me. The weird turning animals into people magic wasn't really explained. My basic understanding of it is the greater amount of imagination that you have, like the more realistic your imagination, the better your power is and the more that you can do over some other people. But who is bestowed this power and why they are bestowed this power is never explained. It's one of those things that just is. I will say that at the end of the book, Ava's death was devastating to me, to find out that this entire time that she was the lonely swan that Samantha was seeing when she sat on that park bench, and that Sam inadvertently and unbeknownst to her turned this swan into the perfect best friend, and she just didn't know that she had created her own friend out of her just desperate loneliness, was so sad. And I really loved Jonah's part in the story, because I was trying to figure out where he was going to play into it by the ending, and the fact that he's there with her in the end after Ava's gone just really gave this story a bittersweet ending, and that was something that I appreciated. And I actually, to be honest, I really liked the ending of this book. I felt like it was pretty impactful and hard-hitting. My biggest issues were the parts that were in the middle. Wasn't the beginning, wasn't the end, it was the middle. A lot of people hype how strange Bunny is, and the one thing I will say is this is by no means the weirdest book that I've ever read. If you want to read a really weird story, go and read Haruki Murakami's Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, or even House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. Even though I hated House of Leaves, really liked Hard-Boiled Wonderland, did not like House of Leaves at all. But both of those are way weirder than this. So if you're expecting this to be just like the trippiest ride you've ever been on, That's not what this is if you've been around a while. I'll put it that way. I am kind of curious to try other Mona Awad stories, but to be honest with you, after Bunny, because this one appeared to be the most popular, I don't really know where to start. So tell me, based off of my feelings of this book, if you have read other stories by Mona Awad, which one do you think that I should pick up next? That you think that I have the best chance of liking? Because I'm serious, I will give her another shot. I, for one, think that 3.5 stars is not a bad rating. I'm saying that it's solid, it just has some problems, and it's not a book that I'm going to go out of my way to recommend. Let me know down in the comments if you actually read Bunny or if you were just hanging out to hear the spoilers, because I would like to know if you agree or disagree with any of my comments. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, that you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.